Alright, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Oriole's Master. I'm a Frost Mage on Tichondrius in the guild tab target. I'm going to be doing a commentary over the Mythic Sark kill that we did this last week. And I'm going to be uploading it to you guys all see. My last one, the Echo of Neptharian one, when I think I like ranked 4 or something, don't really remember. But I got good comments on that, saying it was very educational to hear my thought process. And along that line, so I'm going to do the same thing for Mythic Sark. I guess the log is a little bit sussy because, 10.17 came out, so a rank 1 parse is kind of fake. But as of right now, it's still, I think it's rank 4 when I just last looked. So it's still obviously very high up there. I think I ended with like 160k or something like that. So by no means is it getting, is it a bad parse by any means. But yeah, I'm kind of just going to go through talent choices, and my thought process on boss along with our strat. So talent choices for this boss are what you're seeing here. I decided the general tree, there's not a huge lot of things that are very different. The one thing that I decided not to go was I didn't decide to go ice cold for a few reasons. One of them is just for in P1, our glittering surge clear, our last glittering surge clear, that's the group clear. I ice block it in the in SLT. I just like the ice block a little bit better just because it's at the same time that a bunch of the drifting embers are falling. The other thing that I ran, I guess there's 2 other things. I ran improved blast wave. I'm not sure if I actually used it at all in this kill, but we had some issues prior of the ads in P3 going out to ranged or ranged getting aggro on them and not being able to get back into melee. So I took improved blast wave to help fix that. And then I also took displacement. I use displacement as basically how most mages use alter time in intermission. So and Mythic, if you guys don't know how you go down for intermission once you get your 10 stacks, and then a few seconds later you drop another like a bomb hole, a black hole. So instead of using alter time to get back to the spot that you need to drop at, I was blinking away and using displacement to get back because I was using alter time as a defensive rather than using it as a location changer. And then for defensive-wise, I just decided to go 2 times diverted energy. There's not really any defensive that you can run. You can run the Winter's Protection, but I didn't really find too much of a use for it. Other than that, that's basically it for the general tree. My spec tree is a little bit different than most people's spec trees that are currently running this, especially those that are parsing. A lot of the higher parse Frost Mage kills are basically running full AoE pad. I'm still running Ray of Frost and Cryopathy. Most of the higher ones that are parsing higher are running Freezing Rain and Chain Reaction. So that's a lot more AoE damage that's coming out. I am running Ice Collar and Cold Snap. I think I originally not been running Cold Snap in this just because in P2 it gets a little finicky when you're able to go in or not. Same thing in P3. But after a few times I kind of got used to it, and I definitely think it's much better. You get a lot more orb usage and a lot more Comet Storm usage. Again, I am running Ice Collar, which is a little different. Most people, if they're running the Ray of Frost build, would just talent fully into single targets. They would go the Frozen Touch kind of build, but I decided that I still wanted to run the Ray of Frost. I also don't think Frozen Touch is that great of a talent compared to Ray of Frost or like Chain Reaction. And Ice Collar, I think, just gets a lot of value in this fight because ads are up for the last basically 4 minutes of the fight, basically almost 100% of the time. So you just get a lot more orbs, I think, with Ice Collar compared to the damage that you would get from Frozen Touch and single target. But if we go look at some of the other... Oh, yep, I am currently rank 4. All of the other logs are looking to be using Freezing Rain, which is orb makes Blizzard instant, so it's a lot more ad-focused, and they're all using Chain Reaction as well. So Freezing Rain and Chain Reaction, and none of them are using Ray of Frost. As you see, there's only 4 of us in the top 10 that are using Ray of Frost. All the other ones are basically primarily focusing on ads. So that was, I'm still more single target focused than they are. And now I'll kind of just go into my thought process for what I was doing in all of the phases, and I'll kind of just do a walkthrough of that. So I think I am one of the targets that's getting Prescienced and Evan Mighted on pull. So when I'm starting this, I obviously start with the pre-barrier. I will talk about something that I found here. So I'm... Oh, I just skipped all the way forward. Oops. I'm standing on this marker, this person right here. It's Bimbo. He's one of our augmentation evokers. I'm one of our stack targets for Evan Might. There is a bug that was happening that I didn't find a way around, and it was happening to a lot of other people. Kind of got annoying at the start of the pull. The strat is you can either, well, the strat for me is I run Ice Flows. I probably should have went over that in my general talent. I'm an Ice Flows user compared to a Shimmer user, and that does change some things, but I think it makes, especially P1, much easier to be able to cast. But it ints a little bit right on pull. There was a bug that if you're casting a Glacial Spike and then the Glacial Spike animation is still going off when you gate, or something along those lines, your Glacial Spike would miss the target, yet it would use all your Icicles. So my way around that is sometimes I kind of had to like int my opener a little bit, is like I would overcap on Icicles just until I pass through the gate and then I can Glacial Spike and start it. Obviously opener is Frostbolt Flurry, Icy Veins. I have my pot and everything with Lust. So fortunately here I actually got pretty good RNG. I actually got one of my Frostbolts procced the Splintering Cold, so I got enough Icicles to do the Glacial Spike before I actually gate. So now you see me going into Glacial Spike, into a Flurry, and now this is going to be followed by the gate. And I didn't Ice Lance there because of the bug. I was having it happen with both Ice Lance and Glacial Spike, so I was just holding it. And so now I'm going to go into the typical opener rotation. So now it's the Comet Cold, do Ice Lance, and Ray of Frost on the second Winter Chill stack. One thing I did a little bit different here at the beginning too is I decided to hold my orb. I was holding my orb a little bit so that it lined up with when you need to run along with the bombs. I didn't enjoy... There are times... I'm using Ice Flow, so it wasn't too bad for me. There are a lot of times when you're running the bombs and moving around, you literally have nothing to cast. So I felt it easier that I could just hold orb. It lined up with my P2 plans perfectly anyways, but I would just hold orb here until we're actually moving along. So I think I hold it until like 25, 30 seconds into the fight or something along those lines. Obviously, I'm just doing typical single target rotation. I'm shattering all my Glacial Spikes into Flurries with 2 Ice Lances. I hate getting this Disintegrate here, because if you get this first Disintegrate, you're basically slowed for the rest of P1. As soon as you get any of the Disintegrates and it clears you, you're slowed for the rest of P1. And it is really toxic to deal with this and all of P1 to be extra slow. So I'm assuming I do it a few times in this. I end up gaming a lot of the Drifting Embers and the Scorching Bombs that are on the platform, and I stay behind in case one baits on me, and then I can just blink forward. But it's really annoying to deal with getting Disintegrated at the start. My defensive usage was... I guess I didn't even really use it here either. So for this one, I'm supposed to be using Barrier and Mirror Images was my plan. It doesn't really look like I use Mirror Images. Also, yeah, we don't need to mind me missing my orb. This is what I was talking about, how I like using my orb right here. Unfortunately, my guy started spinning, and as you see, my orb kind of went into Narnia. So I kind of lost my entire orb and all of my Fingers of Frost procs. So that was unfortunate. Now here I did end up using Lust. I think it's like a second early. Oh, it actually is perfect timing. I use Lust here, and then my defenses for this plan of Searing Breath is I use Alter, Mass Barrier, and G-Invis. I alter originally, and then I go into... I altered, and I Mass Barriered. I didn't end up using G-Invis that time. I like using Alter because it brings me back, especially if I get the Disintegrate, which I shouldn't at this point since I got the first one. But I'll just be able to get rid of all this health, especially if I'm a target that doesn't get Mass Dispelled. We do have 2 Priests, so Mass Dispel is a lot easier with a clear there. But now I can... You saw me alter time back from like 30% back to like 90% health, so I think that's pretty beneficial. And now I did use Mirror Images here. I should have used it earlier. I should have had it already running, but... And then I do find it very helpful to do face down, especially when you're stacking, because of the Drifting Ember stacks, or the Drifting Embers. They're kind of toxic sometimes to see. So. This is where I think Ice Flows is so much better than Shimmer on this fight. Because if you're a Shimmer user on this, in that scenario, I basically would have had nothing to cast. I don't have Orb out, I don't have Fingers of Frost procs, I had no Flurries. I'm just sitting here on a Glacial... I guess I could have Comet Stormed, but I had no Flurries or anything. So in that case, I literally could still just Ice Flows and Glacial Spike while I was running. And now here I did overstack on my Icicles, just because I wanted to get my Ray of Frost off before the next bomb placement. And so now here we're going to be moving the next bombs around. I didn't want to be holding Ray of Frost for this long because if I hold it, it doesn't line up with my first Ray of Frost in P2. So while I am over capping on Icicles, it doesn't matter a whole lot here because, again, running Ice Flows, I can Glacial Spike Flurry while we're baiting the bomb. So now here's where I decided to use the Ice Block. I Ice Block here. I actually Ice Blocked late. Don't be like me and greedy cast. Smile. But I Ice Blocked late, and then now we can stay in the darkness. Unfortunately, I had these issues of noticing it myself, and I know it happens with Frost Mages. You can't be in melee range if you want your Glacial Spike Flurry combo to work. If you're Glacial Spiking and then Flurrying, because your Glacial Spike will actually hit before your Winter Show registers. So a lot of the time it won't crit. So I was staying out of the darkness, which isn't great. But what I could have done in this scenario, since I'm not using Alter Time and Intermission, I can use Alter Time right here as a defensive. But I just didn't really... I was never felt in danger. If I ever feel in danger here, I can Healthstone or Health Pot. I would spend all my Icicles just prior to going down. I would always Barrier right here before we get sent down, just so make sure I'm full health. And now since I'm using Displacement, our stack point is right here, and I use Blink, and I gather as many of the haste buff things as I can, and I displace back, and now I just have no issue getting back, and now I still have another Blink later on if I need to get back. But I thought it was very beneficial to use Displacement versus Alter Time and Intermission. At 1, it's an extra. You get an extra heal from Displacement. So now you see here, I already have all my 10 buffs. I had my 10 buffs like 5 seconds ago, just because I was able to blink and get like 5 or 6. I think if we go over it again, I had 4 buffs before our clear even happened, which most people are only able to do like 1 or 2 if it's really close. So it's just some way that I could gain a few extra of the. And now here, I kind of went back and forth with what I wanted my rotation to be here. I ended up having it be where I would hold my Icy Veins until the set of ads spawned. We were having a lot of issues with my freezes stopping the ads from getting stunned or knocked up. So I kind of had to be really careful with when I stuff. So I'd always like to, for all of the ads in P2 at least, I was one of the funnel focus targets for the Recollection. So I would always open. I'd open on the boss until the Empty Recollection spawns, and I would immediately try to have a Glacial Spike Flurry already lined up for the Empty Recollection, so that way I would hit the Empty Recollection with it, as well as one of the Null Glimmer ads. So you'll see how that pans out. I also normally like pre-casting Blizzard, so you see my orb is actually going to come up here. This is where I think Cold Snap gets the most amount of value, as long as you have everything off cooldown here, and Ice Flows. But now I Icy Veins here, and now I'm going to get my Flurry proc from Water Jet, and now while I'm targeting the Empty Recollection, I can go for the Glacial Spike, and I did use Flurry. You can use Ice Nova, but Ice Nova was kind of griefing a lot of our knockups and our stuns a lot of the time, and it was freezing the ads in the spot that melee couldn't hit, so I had to be very careful doing that. But now this is the time where it's really, you need to know when you can and can't go into melee as a ranged, because you're baiting the bombs in P2. So I immediately go from my Glacial Flurry into a Comet Storm, and do Orb into running into melee, and then I use Cone of Cold to get Orb and Comet Storm back, and then I can immediately use them again. And now this is when I want to use my Ray of Frost immediately. If you guys remember when I said I had been overcapping on Icicles in P1 because I needed my Ray of Frost back up, at this point, I will send my Ray of Frost into Sark because the Empty Recollection should be dying here. After all the nerfs and everything, we kind of started pulling people off the Empty Recollections for kills. but I'm just one of like the prio league targets off of it. Now again, Ice Flows I think was really beneficial here. So now here's my Ray of Frost. This is a little late Ray of Frost because I actually plan on... The way I used Ray of Frost in P2 is Ray of Frosting both Sark on the first ad spawn, and then I Ray of Frosted the third Empty Recollection ad. That was basically my assignments that I made for myself for Ray of Frost. For the Infinite Duresses, I could be altering this. The way I kind of did this, which I kind of want to game around with this a little bit still, our other mages using Alter Time. But I was just blinking it, which is a little bit not great because it is a GCD and I'm kind of just sitting there waiting for them to cast it. But yeah, so definitely some min-maxing that can be done there. And then here I typically am sending all my cooldowns because my Shifting Power is coming back up. The only thing I haven't been really sending was my Comet Storm. I wait till the next ad set spawns. Now Abyssal Breath is spawning. I pre-cast my Blizzard, so as soon as the ads are spawning, I have my Blizzard already down for them. And now that I have that, I go immediately, I target the Empty Recollection, and go immediately into my Glacial Spike Flurry combo, and then I Comet Storm. I did want to be very careful of where I send my orb, because if I sent my orb from here, where I originally was, it would actually trigger off the boss here, and so my orb would just be useless over here. So I made sure to like run to the right in order to throw it to the ads. It still gets out of range of them, but it at least is not as bad as it was prior. So some people have been getting a use of Coldest Snap here. I personally don't like this because I only think at this point in time the Empty Recollection's already at 50% and most of the No Glimmers are basically dead. So I actually like preferring to save my Cone of Cold, my Coldest Snap use for the third ad set. And now this Infinite Duress, this is one that you get knocked into the gate and you get knocked back. At least that's our plan. For me, I personally just like to alter timing this and not having to worry about gate. And then I was focusing the Empty Recollection just to make sure it died. And now this is the part where I also like Ice Flows. You can cast while moving this entire time. I don't like Shimmer here because there's a chance that if you're on this bomb and you shimmer away, or you blink away, there's a chance that next bomb can actually get spawned on you, and you'd be over here instead of Ice Flows. Slowly move out of the group. Make sure you don't. So again, I have my I'll be precasting my Blizzard going here, and now this is when the third ad set spawns, and so now I can go immediately into my Orb and Comet Storm, followed by my Coldest Snap with my Cold. So I get a lot of burst damage here on the third set. Unfortunately, I should not have sent my Orb so quick because you see that we actually pull the mobs away. So that entire first Orb kind of gets griefed a little bit. But then obviously I move back into melee, followed by another Cone of Cold and Orb. And now this should be my Ray of Frost on the ad. Yeah, you see my Ray of Frost here on the third ad. So this is why I wanted to get my Ray of Frost out as soon as possible on Sark at the start of P2. And now, a very minimal thing that I did here, definitely not needed to be done at all, it's just very minimal defensive value, is I ended up blinking and barriering just before we go in so that I have the little extra shield, because you obviously my shield from barrier, and then my shield from Tempest Barrier, which is the talent, and when you blink you get a little shield. The only thing that I will say with Coldest Snap is you need to make sure that you're actually doing it very early on in of that third group in P2. Because if you don't do it early on, you'll see I actually get a Cone of Cold here before we have the first bomb baits in P3. I was a little scared of that one. So now, our strat, obviously, mostly everyone's strat is just the one take stays up and can bait the one pillar over here. But now going into this, since I do have my Cone of Cold back, I immediately start with my Orb into my Comet Storm, into a Cone of Cold, and I have everything back again. But I do need to get back in time, because bombs are baited here in 3 seconds. So the timer is a little tight, but you obviously have some leeway. So just make sure that you're getting back to in range in time for your bomb baits. This is another time that I like Ice Flows over Shimmer, is for the baiting bombs, especially here in 3. So first bomb baits, and I can just cast the entire time while moving, and then into melee. And now from here on out, it's basically, as any time the ads are going to be spawning, I have Blizzard running. There's a little bit of gaming that I kind of played around with. So anytime the ads actually were spawning here, we had some issues. I know I told you guys how I took improved Blast Wave in order to knock the ads back into melee. It's, I think, one of the furthest, if not the furthest knock in the game. Not exactly positive. I think Shaman Thunderstorm without the knockup talent is just about the same distance. But it was very beneficial when we were having issues, so I just kind of stayed with it. And now, whenever the ads are going to be spawning here, so for the Ascension here in 9 seconds, this is the Mass Dispel one that you're stacking on gate for Mass Dispel. I would normally try to pre-cast Blizzard, so I'm pre-casting Blizzard here, knowing that we're going to be Mass Dispelling here. I actually missed the gate here. I wasn't far enough close enough for the gate because I was getting my pre-Blizzard down. Luckily, as a mage, I have Blink, so I can just blink out anyways. And now I used my defensive here for this value for the black hole. I typically use G-Invis here. I actually didn't use it at all there. I used like nothing. Very unlike me. But now since I did get my pre-Blizzard down, along with my orb, I sent out my orb prior to actually getting Mass Dispelled for the Infinite Duress. They're all perma-stun here. And I don't actually need to go hit them in a melee. But you see I do knock them in here. I think. I didn't. Alright. But this is me getting into melee. This is one of the really, really sketch timings. Because I want to try getting a Cold Snap here. But there's a bomb going off, and the bomb baited are in 6 seconds. So I'm trying to bait an extra Comet Storm coming out here. Which I actually didn't use the Comet Storm, so I actually lost a use of Comet Storm here because I didn't Comet Storm prior to One of Cold for the Cold Snap reset. And now we're baiting bombs here. Again, a very good use of Ice Flows here. And now in any scenario, if I didn't have a Flurry and I'm casting a Glacial Spike, especially in P3, I was using Ice Nova in order to make sure my Glacial Spike would at least shatter on target. So it'll always shatter on the ads because the ads are freezable, so they'd actually get frozen by Ice Nova. Versus if I like Glacial Spike Flurried, I would be able to crit on the boss, but I would have the off chance of not critting on. So if you don't have a Flurry, you can always use Ice Nova. But yeah. This is where I think you get a lot of value from Ice Collar. So basically now here, I'm going to have almost full uptime of Blizzard, or very high uptime, and getting a lot more of orbs coming out here. So again, another Blizzard here. You should be Blizzarding, if I remember the Sims properly, it's 2 to 3 targets. I believe it's actually not till 3 that it's actually a gain, and 2 target is neutral. So it's your choice whether you want to do it on a 2 target. I could be wrong there. I know 3 target is a gain. I'm not sure about 2 target. I think 2 target is a gain if you're running Cold Snap. But as you guys know from my talent stuff, I'm not running Cold Snap. I'm running the Ray of Frost with Cryopathy. Now here I actually decided to send Icy Veins with my second lust, or I guess third lust, because we're supposed to be holding our lusts for Icy Veins times. I do lose a little bit of value because there is an Ascension happening in 25 seconds, and since Icy Veins is 30-second cooldown, I'm going to be losing a little bit of value here, but not too much. Obviously the boss is at 10%, so we know it's going to die here soon. This was really sketch because someone had a black hole and jumped off. They weren't really sure what to do with it. And then when Infinite Duress went off, so that was also a little sketch. And I'm not sure where... Alright, so our 2 bombs luckily spawned back here. But typically that should be an Infinite Duress knockback from Star to out here, and then we bait the bombs from like here to here, and then go back into melee. But that was kind of very scuffed from the black hole. And now here, again, I know that an Ascension's coming out, so I pre-Blizzard. And so now these ads are going to be These ads actually came out before my Blizzard was there, so I actually missed the value from that. And now I can use another Cold Snap here, which I should be. Yeah, I'm running into melee to get a Cold Snap. Again, Blizzard uptime. At this point, I probably shouldn't be worrying too much about Blizzard, because I'm not going to be getting another Frozen Orb here, which is the value of Ice Collar. The actual value of Ice Collar isn't the Blizzard damage unless you're running Freezing Ring. It's the value of getting the extra orbs out. In this case, since Sark is already at 2%, there's no possible shot of getting another Frozen Orb out with only 4 targets. But yeah, that was my Mythic Sark commentary. At this point, it was rank 1 at the time. It was rank 1 for, I think, like 2 days. And until yesterday, I was the, if we go look, I was the rank 1 parts of that externals until literally today, which is very unfortunate. Because these two guys got PI abusers. But yeah, that is my rank 4 now. Technically rank 1 when it happened, because I can flex the 100 rank now. But that's my commentary for my rank 1 Sark at the time. There are a few things, obviously, that I know I need to get better at with. I think the pre-blizzarding was a huge thing for me, figuring out, just because I can get extra orb value and it lines out the cooldowns a little better. Obviously, not missing my first orb would obviously have helped quite a substantial amount. But we don't worry about that, because not only did I lose all that orb damage, I lost all of my Fingers of Frost, which I typically use while running bombs. But yeah, from the video, we saw overalls, the Devastation Evoker with 242, me with 231, and then everyone else was around like 150. It was definitely a scuffed pull, because you see a lot of people dead. But if we go look at the logs, a lot of the damage, I am running Ray of Frost, so I'm a little more single target focused, so I'm 5th on the meters for this. And the 2 people that are above me are 2 of the Augmentation Evokers that are buffing me with Ebonmite. Obviously, Augmentation Evokers are stealing some damage, but it's whatever. But doing very good single target, and then followed by Empty Recollection. Again, I said I was one of the prio funnel targets for the Empty Recollections. I was opening every Empty Recollection that spawned in P2 with a Glacial Spike Flurry or a Glacial Spike Ice Nova. I wasn't really able to do Ice Nova as much as I wanted, just because it was causing issues with a lot of our stun rotations. So I ended up not being able to do that as much, which ended up losing me a little bit of damage in AoE, but it's really whatever. And the reason that I was doing the Empty Recollection Glacial Spike was because when Sarkareth, I'll go back to P2 to kind of explain my reasoning for that. When Sarkareth does his dash at you, if I was still targeting Sark here, and I was Glacial Spiking, by the time he lands, I would only be getting, my Glacial Spike would only be hitting 1 target. So that was my reasoning of targeting the Empty Recollection. I could swap immediately back to Sark after I get the Glacial Spike off, which I typically do. I typically switch almost immediately. But a lot of the times here, like, I go through my Glacial Spike Flurry into my Orb, Comet Storm, Cone, Orb, Comet Storm. But most of them I do swap pretty much almost immediately back to Sark, or I should be at least, because especially with our strat, which we actually changed our strat for this one in particular. Typically, we are 3 healing the boss. This is our first time actually doing 4 healing. Supposedly we were the first team to heal Prog kill Sark, but we were getting one of our trials and like long-term trials and raiders CE on their priest. They had kind of been on like 4 different tunes. And didn't have CE still on this tune. So we brought them in as a healer, and we were kind of 4 healing. So our damage was definitely a little bit off compared to what we were used to. But yeah, if we were looking at the Empty Recollection damage, as I said, I was one of the funnel targets, and then we look at Null Glimmer damage. Unfortunately, Augmentation Evokers, like I said, are kind of yoinking a lot of it. I think me, and obviously from the overalls, me and the Evoker were doing a lot of the damage. To 242 and then 231 or something. If we go look at both Evoker damage, you see it's both myself and Son of Jah, our Devastation Evoker, at way higher than everybody else, because we were the 2 main targets for Ebonmite. So yeah. all of my damage is pretty comparable to the other parses in terms of Frost Mages or the Null-Glimmers, Empty Recollections, and Sark. Obviously, the other ones that are not running Ray of Frost are going to be a little bit more AoE focused, so they're going to be having a little bit more damage on the Null-Glimmers and the Empty Recollections. So if we looked at like the overalls for, I'll compare mine to Choi Choi's, who's the rank 1 right now. Sark, I was at 102k. Empty Recollections, I was 16k. And Null-Glimmers, I was 44k. If we go compare to, I'll just do this so we can have 2 separate tabs up. I hate Warcraft logs sometimes. If we go look at Choi Choi's, so I was 102 on Sark. They are... $112. So they're definitely a lot more on single target, which is surprising. I'll have to go look into that a little bit more, but their Null-Glimmer and Empty Recollection will definitely be a lot more than mine. Their Empty Recollection is 15k compared to my... Or 16 for Null-Glimmer. Yeah, we were both about 16 for Null-Glimmers, or for Empty Recollection, and their Null-Glimmer I think was a lot higher than mine, if I remember correctly. They were 55 versus my 44. And they also didn't have the Augmentation Evokers with a lot of getting a lot of the damage from it. I'm not sure how true it is. I've heard that there's a bug with Augmentation Evokers actually taking more damage specifically from Frost Mages compared to other classes due to the way how Frost Mage Shattering works with crits. And I'm not still entirely sure how it works, but it has something to do with Prescience and Evan Might, and sometimes there's like a short period where the Augmentation Evokers will actually take the full damage of some of your spells for a short duration, and it's just because there's some weird interaction with Prescience and Frost Mage, with Frost Mage creating basically 3 times as much as the other classes due to Shatter. But yeah, that is the commentary for the Mythic Sark this week. I'm going to try and get a few more commentaries out. I know I've kind of been slacking on those a little lately, so I kind of want to start doing the M+ ones again. I highlighted a lot of those in the last few weeks. Unfortunately, I didn't do any keys this week because of Sanguine, but I have some from the prior 2 weeks, and then if I do some keys in the next few weeks, I'll definitely be trying to get commentaries out for those, because I know the commentaries are definitely a lot more beneficial than just uploading POV and VODs of the keys that I'm doing. So commentary kind of gives my thought process and things like that. But yeah, that was it for the Mythic Sark commentary, and hope you guys enjoyed it.